Nathan, Aaron, can you close that door back up for us, please?
Guess I better turn this on so everybody can hear me. For all the board members, item C has been scratched. Yeah, a minute, please. We can get going. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome everyone to the City of Graham's April Planning Board. Our board is an advisory board to City Council. Whether we vote for or against your application, it is advisable that you come before City Council. City Council has the ultimate say. We're going to use the 3-minute rule tonight. That means everyone will get 3 minutes to speak. At the end of the 3 minutes, an alarm will go off. Please don't go on and on and on. That will not be good. I'd hate to interrupt you in midstream. Everyone, you are being recorded tonight. There are cameras, they're all live. We will allow a certain amount of dialogue between you and the applicant. But if you have any questions, direct the questions to me and I will get an answer for you. Tonight, you must step up to the podium here, state your name and address. And if you're representing someone, if you're a business owner or something like that, you must state your name. What business or organization that you're representing. With that being said, I will open our prayer. Open our meeting with a prayer. Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come at this time thanking you for this wonderful day you've given us, for the many blessings upon our life. We come at this time thanking you for this wonderful community that we live in, for the country, for the freedoms we hold so dear. Lord, help us today as we go about the workings of our community that will do what is well pleasing unto thee. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I will entertain a motion on the minutes. I think Bonnie has a couple of corrections.
Chairman, I have a correction for the minutes from March 19th. I was not in attendance, and the minutes indicate such, and that I voted that evening, but I was not here due to a unexpected family death just a couple hours prior to our meeting.
All right. I'll make a motion that we adopt the minutes with the corrections set forth.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before we go to new business, I must state I have a possible conflict of interest. This subdivision that is proposed abuts the subdivision that I live in. I live in the Valleyfield subdivision. I'm not an adjoining property owner, but I am an adjoining in principle property owner because I'm part of the HOA, which has a large amount of common area. Is there any reason that I need to step down or recuse myself?
Could you remain impartial?
Yes.
I see no reason.
Any?
Have no problem.
All right. Is Nathan, does that cover it? All right. Now we'll move on to new business. Sir.
Yes, Sir Chairman Hall. The first item before the board tonight is a rezoning. It's RZ1901 Lacy Acres. This is a request to rezone the subject property from R18 to R9. The property is currently vacant, wooded, and under cultivation. I would like to remind the board that although there are two pieces to this, there's the A piece, which is the rezoning application, and the B piece, which is the subdivision application. Only one of those does the board have real authority for. If A is recommended to deny, then B does not meet the standards and cannot be approved. Likewise, if A is recommended approval, then B will meet the standards and must be approved. So although there are two items on the agenda, the only one that is really before the planning board this evening is the rezoning from R18 to R7 for the 58 acres off of Chartwell Lane and Stonehaven Drive.
All right, will the applicant step forward, please?
Hello, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Penny Sekadlo, and I am the applicant. I am a principal engineer of Penny Engineering Design, and my client, Glenwood Homes, has asked me to pursue this subdivision and the rezoning that it would take. I have maps. I'm assuming that you have maps in all of your packets. I also have presentation maps if people want to point. I'll be happy to set those up. And I have a representative of Glenwood Homes with me here too.
All right.
Good evening, Planning Board. My name is Carla Sevilla, and I am an owner of Glenwood Homes, and we have retained Penny Engineering to do the design concept for everyone. For the application, I know that this is the 58 acres that we are asking for the rezone, and Penny can speak to the technical aspects of the rezone. We would like the board to know that we did hold a meeting with the adjacent property owners to discuss the project and hear their voices and their concerns about things that we could do to address any concerns that they have on the current subdivision plan. We also want the board to know that we have built nearby. So we brought some pictures and representations of what we have built in a nearby subdivision so that our neighbors in Graham could see the type of homes that we are planning on building. We are very excited about the project. We think it would be commensurate with the surrounding community, and we would, I guess, like to hear any questions that the board has. The pictures that Penny are showing, that is in our Ashbury subdivision. The home site sizes of that community is the same size that we are proposing for.
Ma'am, can you turn it to word?
The neighborhood is completely sold out. There was a lot of demand for it because the product is a very nice price point. It's built primarily to house people that are looking for more modern features in their homes. The home sites are 60 feet wide, which is what we did on the site plan. And we were working with the staff planning department to make sure that we took their considerations for the planning of the project. Sorry. We'll be turning some pictures around. The 58 acres looks like we would do, I think it was, how many homes, Penny? 165? 163. There would be 2 entrances, which was part of the design process and the recommendations by the city to make sure that we had ingress and egress off of Chartwell and the other street. The one street currently is a cul-de-sac, but those owners, we understood, knew that that would become another adjoining street to a new subdivision. So we did talk to them about how we could do some traffic control.
Ma'am, hold on. Look, you can't talk out of turn. Everybody will get 3 minutes to stand up here a minute ago. This lady has a podium. Okay, ma'am.
So on that road where it does go into the cul-de-sac, we would be planning a traffic calming median to ensure that cars are not going fast down that thoroughfare. And this was discussed at our meeting. We did have 9 people in attendance at that meeting. We heard from mainly the property owners at the entrances of the subdivision on the 2 main sections. And we did understand their primary concern was traffic. So we talked to them about what could potentially be done, the main thing being the traffic calming median off of Chartwell.
Do anyone have any questions of this?
What kind of price point, did you say what the price point was?
Yes, we are looking to do a price point similar to our Ashbury subdivision, which is right down the street. I did invite the neighbors to come and tour those homes with me if they'd like to see our product. That would be for our least expensive home, probably around $230, and then going up to $300, depending on the floor plan. Our plans range in size from about 1,700 square feet to 2,700 square feet. So we do have a wide variety of sizes. We also offer a master on the main level for people who need something that has not requiring stairs for their master on the main. And that's been a very popular plan for us too.
Any more questions for this?
Not at this time.
All right, ma'am.
Are there any questions of an engineering level that I can answer for you at this time?
I'd like to ask one question. Why is, if interest is, or both roads coming into the subdivision, why isn't it in phase 1?
Why is that?
Not included in phase 1?
We just tried to divide the project up evenly into phases. If that is a concern, there's no reason it cannot be done in phase 1.
Okay. All right, if you guys will sit down for just a few minutes, we'll probably have more questions for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to start over here on the left-hand side, and everybody's, like I said, it's going to get 3 minutes. The clock will start running as soon as you stand up to start speaking. You must state your name and address. So anyone would like to speak, step forward.
My name is Sandra LaFrancois. I live on Stonehaven
Can you pull the
Drive.
mic down, please? Thank you.
Is that good?
Yes, ma'am.
By the way, I'm having trouble hearing you guys because I'm hard of hearing. So if you all wouldn't mind speaking a little louder,
Yes, ma'am.
it would be appreciated. Okay, 25 years ago, when my husband and I were down here looking at homes,
Ma'am,
we,
I apologize. You said Stonehaven Drive, but would you mind giving the number?
973.
Thank you.
We had several homes in mind. All things being equal, we chose this home because it was on a cul-de-sac. A cul-de-sac offers more, as far as we're concerned, it may be subjective, but it offers more security and privacy. We've never been fans of high-density population areas. We like the country. We're not against progress. I mean, that's inevitable. That's going to happen no matter where you go. I mean, we factored that into it. As far as I'm concerned, within 9/10 of a mile of our house, we have, like, I've lost count, 900 or so homes. It's like it's the only corner of Graham that's up for development. I mean, even Burlington's in on it. Shamrock lost big time. That beautiful area is going to look like any other common area. As far as I'm concerned, the last thing our area needs are more, yeah, they're nice. But as far as I'm concerned, every home in our cul-de-sac is unique and different. You will not find anything similar. You can put a porch on this side, you can put a porch on that side, it's still the same, period. Put a little brick here, a little brick there, it's still the same. There's nothing unique about it. Nothing. And that's what makes our neighborhood really nice and, might I say, valuable. It adds to property values. I think having all those homes in our backyard isn't even the worst of it. The worst of it would be having a street cut right into our neighborhood. That is the worst thing, I think. If I'm going to pick the worst of the two evils, that's it. It would ruin everything that we value down there and has become our way of life. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I think any developer should be enhancing and complementing an area, not coming in and changing the character. As far as I'm concerned, just about raping the whole neighborhood. That's how I look at it. I'm so angry over this. Even in real estate, the principles are location, location, location. The principle of continuity. Well, coming in and wrecking, destroying an existing nice neighborhood does not apply the value and principle of continuity. And frankly, I think it would reduce our property values. Was that the ding? Well, I had more to say, but never mind.
You'll get a chance after everybody else gets a chance. We go around again. Next.
Hi, I am Mary Taylor, and I live at 974 Stonehaven Drive. So I'm just going to do my bullet points. I would like to know what type of stormwater controls will you have in place to mitigate the vulnerability to floods, as this property and ours already are in a flood zone. And I have a home that's on the lower end, and the creek has already gone over numerous times this year. I also would like to know that when I was driving through the subdivision Valleyfield, I noticed there was several signs up. Please drive more slowly. They wouldn't put those up if there was not an issue. And you're already asking us to go down to a 0.4 of an acre, down to 0.2 with an R9. So you're going to have a whole lot of homes in a small little area. I myself, we don't have sidewalks to walk our dogs or walk our children. I'm concerned about the safety of our citizens. And there are other areas that can be accessed. I understand you have to have two. But when I was driving through, I noticed that on Covington Loop and Fairfield Loop, there is also, if you go into the left, it's already cut over as if you can add that side to the left instead of coming through on Cardwell. We already seen a massive growth in our area along Rogers Road. There's that new development going across from the park. You've got Rogers Springs, Forks of Alamance, Southern Middle School, and Southern High School are already over capacity. Where are these people going to go?
Wait just a minute, ma'am.
Well, I want the timer stopped.
Stop it. For the school system, the city of Graham does not have a dog in the fight. If you want to talk about the school system, you need to take that up with the county commissioners.
Okay. I also like to hear more about the phases and where exactly all the phases are going to go. I looked at the map, I don't understand it, so I want someone to show it to me. We are also in the county, but the new development is going to be in the city. Are we going to be expected to be annexed into the city? I certainly do not want this, nor do I wish to pay for the infrastructure, water and sewer. Not interested in it. So I would like those questions answered, please.
Okay, Nathan, stop it again for us. To answer your question, no, you would not be annexed into the city.
I'm sorry?
You would not be annexed into the city.
Oh, could I have that in writing?
The state of North Carolina won't allow us to annex you in unless you request it. There is a caveat if greater than 80% of your neighbors request to be annexed in. If for certain purposes, that has happened in the past when we've had almost all of the septic tanks on a particular road fail. But other than that, I'm not aware of any circumstances under which there has been any annexations other than voluntary annexations 100% of the way in the past. I believe that rule was passed about 2003.
No, ma'am. You'll get a chance to speak. Is there anyone else that wants to step forward, please? Okay.
May I ask a question, please?
Not right now, sir. You'll get a chance.
I just wanted to get the zoning, what addressed, what the zoning means. Because it's a part of the discussion.
Go ahead and answer the question, Nathan.
With regards to the R18 versus R9,
Yes, sir.
the R18 requires 18,000 square feet as its minimum lot size. The R9 requires 9,000 square feet as the minimum lot size.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, thank you. My name is Joseph Hess-Nice. I live at 985 Stonehaven Drive and enjoyed living there since 2004 when my wife and I purchased the property. We, as my neighbors have expressed, it was a lot of the peace and quiet, the simplicity. Personally, I enjoy the one exit. If you'll talk to law enforcement, they'll tell you that one exit out of a subdivision is very powerful because, of course, you cannot have criminals coming and going as you would out of multiple exits. So I would prefer that this not go through unless it's drastically changed to some other process, but I would respectfully request that it doesn't involve Woodshire, which is the development we're part of with, I know how easy that would be to tap into Stonehaven, but you'd be radically mixing two groups of wage earners, and anytime you do that, you've got problems. I can speak from experience because in the early 80s, my wife and I built a brand new home in a development that was very nice, but there was a little part of it that a section that didn't get developed quite as fast. So a developer came in there, put up really cheap housing, way different than the rest of the neighborhood. And it wasn't long till we had our first break-in. and the neighborhood never recovered. It always had problems with, you know, more crime, more roughhouse stuff. So anyway, I'm all for progress. I love progress, but not quite this the way it's laid out. If they can come up with a housing that fits the community better, I think that would work a whole lot better. If they have to have that piece, but I'd rather they wouldn't, because as many have said already, it's getting pretty crowded over there. Seems like every time I drive around, there's plenty of countryside available up and down 49. Just go down another 5 or 10 miles. There's a lot of countryside available down there. So I hope it gets a little better planning and does not involve tapping into Stonehaven. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello. My name is Lauren Adlinsky. I'll be one of the first of the Valleyfield neighbors to be speaking tonight. I live at 2447 Pepperstone Drive. We are currently in the curve of Pepperstone. It's kind of up on the hill as you come down. It's a kind of a steep grade. We do have problems with speed already in the neighborhood. We do have people who do not already abide by our speed limit. So we would have concerns with any type of construction vehicles coming in. Will they have a specific speed limit dictated to them, like the trucks can't go over 15 miles an hour? You know, stopping distance for a passenger vehicle versus a loaded dump truck is a vast difference. In the front of the subdivision, from the beginning to where Chartwell Drive is, there are, I know of 16 homes that have children of all different ages, mine included. My daughter is 2 years old. We actually have friends who live on the cul-de-sac that y'all are currently looking at developing and passing into. And one of the reasons why we picked Valleyfield was we moved from Winston-Salem. I was a paramedic there. I'm now a paramedic here. And I worked here for a year, and I love this area. I love the growth, I love the people, and I love the community. One of the reasons why we picked Valleyfield was it's a wonderful established development. Our property values have already increased. We love the neighborhood. We take pride in where we live. One of the concerns I do have is that because of the cul-de-sac, that is the closest one to my home and where she has friends that we go to play school with, that would now become an area that she could not play in safely. We do not have sidewalks on both sides of our neighborhood. We only have them on one side. So my husband and I, when we walk our dogs every day, and I know a lot of my neighbors see me every day with our big dogs, we have to cross the street, and it's in a curve, and it's very dangerous at times. People do fly through our neighborhood, and we have addressed it with the Grand PD before. There hasn't been a lot of resolution to it. They will come out and sit, but nothing's much is done. We were not permitted to put in speed bumps, and the process for putting in additional stop signs, I'm not sure where that has ended. I have concern as a paramedic because I know a child that has been struck by a passenger vehicle at a lower speed limit can sustain injuries and that are not necessarily life-threatening and can have a better chance of recovery. If a child is hit by something like a dump truck, because I know this will take 6 to 8 years to complete the development, you know, what if something were to happen? That child is instantaneously killed. That weight is too much, the speed is too fast, and they cannot stop. A weighted dump truck can take anywhere from 160 to 224 feet to stop. A passenger vehicle only requires 36 to 44 feet on average, depending on their speed at 25 miles an hour. I did the calculations before I came in tonight. I'm for progress, 100%, and I'm for this development. But if they do go forward, I would like them to not be tied in because we have our own identity as Valleyfield. And I think it would only be fair for the new development to have their own identity as well with their own style. We also have our amenities that we offer, like our ponds and parks. What would happen then because they'd be tied in? Thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Xiaoping Johnson, and I live at 986 Stonehaven Drive. So all those several people, they are my neighbors. We are next door to each other. And we bought the house in January 2017. And so I guess we probably would not have bought the property if I knew this development is going to be there, and they will have access going to Stonehaven Drive. Because we bought the property because we think it's really nice, quiet neighborhood. And every family in our neighborhood, we probably have 21, 22 families there. Everybody probably have about 1, 2, 3 acres lot. And my lot is 3.8 acres. So now you're thinking about you're going to develop a I-9, you know, this so close to us. I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah, so our quietness, our peace definitely will not be there anymore. So now the speed limit on our street is 25 miles per hour. So, I mean, if the developer really wants to develop that piece of land, you know, reconsider your plan. Make big lots comparable, you know, to what we have. Otherwise, just don't go through into our neighborhood. Another thing is, I just found this out last night. I'm totally in shock. And how I found out, there is a neighbor in our neighborhood. His name is Tom Belchin. Okay. And he walked to, I guess, to a neighbor's house and handed us his letter. Okay, told us about this thing. And then today, a couple of other neighbors told me more about this. And I just got this handout thing from Mary Taylor, and she handed me in the car. I do think it's the city's responsibility and it's developers' responsibility to let all the people know about this. You probably should have a big sign said zoning change. At least one sign should be in our neighborhood. If our neighborhood is involved into this development, this is such short notice. It's not acceptable.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Sally Hess-Nice, and I'm at 985 Stonehaven Drive. First of all, I want to say to the developers, thank you for coming tonight, but I never received an email. I never received a telephone call. I never received a letter that this was going to happen. So contrary to what the developer said, I am very distressed by that. Because there wasn't a nice chit chat. We didn't have tea together. We had nothing. So I don't know who she talked to in our neighborhood, but it is quite a shock to all of us.
Ma'am, you got
Yeah. So anyway, so I would implore the developers, I would beg the developers to please do not open up Stonehaven Drive. It would devalue our properties. These homes are $300,000 and $400,000 homes because they have acreage. And I would have never purchased a home in this area if I knew there were these type of houses. Nothing wrong with these type of houses, but there shouldn't be a way to get through into our secluded development. And we are concerned about the crime because the police officers have come into us and said one reason we have no crime is because there is one access out in our development. We are all very distressed. We are horribly upset. And we would again ask the developers to please reconsider, to think of our feelings, because we know the developers must have very attractive, lucrative homes that they enjoy living in. We value where we live, and I would ask you all to reconsider our feelings, the future of our children, of our grandchildren, and of our investments. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next.
My name is Bonnie Whitaker. I live at 2456 Greenview Drive in Valleyfield. And I thank you for letting me speak. If I had known I was going to have to stand up and speak, I would have dressed for the part. Sorry, this is what you get. I have to kind of echo the sentiments of the lady before me when these developers say that they spoke to adjacent homeowners. I'm kind of wondering, gee, I wonder who that was. Because it wasn't us, it wasn't any of us that I talked to in Valleyfield. And again, with the crime situation, we've had police officers tell us the same thing. One of the reasons that the crime is so low in our neighborhood is one way in, one way out. Criminals like more than one way in and one way out. And if you open up Chartwell, you know, that's what you're gonna do. We're also concerned because in Valleyfield, we do take a lot of pride in where we live, and we have a homeowners association that we pay into every year, you know, monthly, or you can pay it once a year. But you know, we have certain covenants and they're very strict and they stick to these covenants. So I'm wondering from these folks, are they going to have a homeowners association? And if there's a way to connect our two neighborhoods, you know, what if their covenants are different from ours? And now all of a sudden we've got stuff going on in that neighborhood that we're not allowed to do because we like to try to keep our property values up by keeping the place looking nice. We would hope that you would decline this request. It's not in keeping with the 2035 comprehensive plan. And we would really ask that you give some serious consideration to denying this, because it's really the main reason we bought in Valleyfield was because it was a neighborhood of cul-de-sacs, which is beautiful. It's quiet, not a lot of traffic. People don't come in there unless they live there. You know, people don't just come in just, you know, checking things out. It's only because they live there, and we like it like that. And we'd like to keep it like that. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, hold on one moment. I've got a question for her.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. Oh, yeah. Wait, I thought I had the green light. All right, we're good. The question I have is what part of the 2035 comprehensive plan do you cite as far as?
Well, as far as traffic, safety, all the things that are included in that in terms of the whole environment in the neighborhood. It's going to change the whole dynamic. It's going to change the traffic coming in and out. It's going to change the wear and tear on our roads. You know, there's not going to be any kind of barrier, we're being told, put up to distinguish between these two neighborhoods. You know, well, why not put a wall up, you know? Hey, build that wall, you know? You know, do something, you know? You need some segregation between these two neighborhoods. So, you know, we're mainly concerned with the traffic issues. The school issue is also under the 2035 comprehensive plan. It includes all that stuff. And I won't go into that because I know that Mr. Hall told us not to go into that, and that's why I'm mentioning the 2035 comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Did anybody else have a question?
Thank
you very much.
Who's next, please?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Stephen Bird, and I live at 2421 Chartwell Lane. So my property is adjacent to the construction. First of all, I've been very thankful to live in Valleyfield for now 14 years. It's been a good place for my family. We've loved the cul-de-sac. We've loved our neighbors, many of whom are here today. It's a great place to live. I think one of the things that concerns me is just the traffic. As a number of our neighbors have emphasized, as you come down Pepperstone, there's that curve. There's also the school buses that need to stop as well, which I believe will be an issue. A lot of traffic is going to come by our property. So I think the issue of traffic is definitely one thing that is on my mind. But for us, it's our property. We're right on what's going to be built. And some of the things that I've been thinking about that I'd like on record would be some type of 50-foot buffer beside the house with planted trees for separation. I would prefer that they start building through the other entrance, but at the same time, I understand some of the other neighbors who are at the Stonehaven, if that's the right name of the street, but you know what I'm saying. I have concern for them too, as well. It seems like the sign should be at the other entrance, but one of the things I've thought about is for both properties is it seems like a long way to get in to the property to do the building for a lot of trucks and construction. I would like for there to be for the developer or the town or however that's to be done, that they would re-put the curve back as grass into property as it relates to how my property is going to be impacted by the construction. As I said earlier, I love Valleyfield. I love the neighbors. I love how we work together as a community. And so I'd like these things to be thought about and addressed by the planning board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who is next, please? Okay, anyone on this side would like to speak? Step forward, sir.
I'm Tom Balchin. I'm located at 2361 Nightdale Drive. This is in the Woodshire subdivision. I've been there in my location 34 years. My home is right at 40 years old. It's just like it was to me when in the inside, when we bought it. On the outside, I got some things to do, but my old crippled knee won't let me do what I need to do. We're talking about 58 acres and 163 homes. And looking at the information on the website, it says single-family homes, duplexes, townhouses, and multifamily homes of 12 units or less. That's typical high density. And that concerns me if we're going to have that type of construction. My issue is traffic. The traffic is the safety of our family, our children, our grandchildren, and us old crippled old men like me. So I'm concerned about that very much. I ask that the planning board look at that factor as one. Other people have mentioned the safety from crime. Well, think about it. We're talking about, on the one hand, a location in the city limits. We're talking about Lacey Holt, which is our exit, is in the city limits. And here we are in Woodshire. We are a county community. And where do we get our protection from? So I'm asking that this be a consideration. We have our streets follow the terrain of the community, hills, valleys, and curves. And we got several hills, several curves, and they're blind. And then our streets are streets of a local community of 25 to 30 homes. They're not wide streets. But we're looking at a location with 163 families. You take 2 cars per family and multiply it, that's 326 cars. And then you look at the number of trips in a day, that number of cars, and that creates one heck of a traffic flow. So there is nothing there that protects us from that traffic flow. We don't have sidewalks and probably never will. So I'm asking that the planning board consider recommending to the developer that they come back with another proposal going to a lower density, not a high density such as this. That's my request, so that we have some degree of safety, and I'll sit down and shut up. Thank you very much.
Next, please.
Good evening. I'm Tyrone Richardson. I live on 2709 Pepperstone Drive in Valleyfield. I have a few different concerns. I have concerns over wildlife. I have concerns with cutting down trees and having flooding. I have concerns with that entrance being built in phase 2 instead of phase 1. I have concerns with the developer saying that they had a meeting and I'm not aware of it. We have had no contact. There's been no briefing. Our HOA has not been briefed. I have concerns of my common areas that we pay money into. What's going to protect those? What's going to protect that? Are we going to have any buffer protecting that at all? We are a tight-knit community. We have meetings. We have outings. I know some of my neighbors, not as many as I want, but my neighbors that is going to be directly affected by this access that we're talking about building right in their homes, they're starting to sell their homes. This saddens me. I'm requesting that we have a 50-foot buffer. I'm requesting that we have some barrier that says, this is our community, this is yours. A different entrance. I'm thinking just about the number of cars we have in my community with the 171 homes that we have there. I know myself, me and my wife, we have 2 different cars. How many different cars are we gonna have now flooding these roads? How many people are we gonna have to share the streets with? And can our roads handle it? That, just like you, to thank you for taking this time to hear my voice.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hi, my name is Jessica Valtera. I live at 2405 Chartwell Lane. My family moved there when I was 7 years old, so I played on the street fairly a lot. I even played with Mr. Bird's kids down there. Currently where Mr. Bird lives, there is a hot spot for children playing basketball down there and even children playing their outside games. I'm concerned about the traffic, really. I have a nephew who's learning how to ride his bike. He likes riding up and down that street. Well, that's just my concern, the traffic, really. I don't want other people invading our neighborhood. I'm used to my neighbors. I really appreciate them for being here and speaking out, and I do not want this subdivision being built near us. So that's all I really have to say. Thank you so much.
Next, please.
Hello, my name is Nicole Richardson. I live at 2709 Pepperstone Drive. I have a few different concerns. My husband was here a few minutes ago. The first thing I'll say is that as a community, we are very close-knit in Valleyfield. We have our HOA, we have our social committee. We just have so many programs where we just get together and just talk and deal with things as a community. We have ponds that we have paid into over the past few years to maintain. We have events where we'll do fishing derbies. We have a park in our community, we maintain it together. We put into so much money into the things that we do and love and enjoy together as a community. What happens when another community abuts our neighborhood? Are they going to access our common areas that we upkeep and have paid money into and keeping it the way we love it? The next thing is the turn from Pepperstone is already a tight area for cars to pass from Pepperstone to the road they want to build through. If there's a car parked and a car is passing, it's already dangerous if you're trying to go through at the same time. I worry about the security concern with that. I worry with the kids that's playing or just people walking their dogs, possibly getting hit with the trucks coming into the community. We request that the subdivision be denied in its current proposal design due to it not in keeping with the 2035 comprehensive plan, just as a basic item. I have a few other bullets. I am concerned that as of right now, there is no sign for the new neighborhood that's going to be put up. What's going to be to tell the difference between their community and our community? Where Valleyfields, what are they going to have that's going to say they are who they are? We do have one entrance and one exit. I do love that that is a security feature for us. Makes me feel a little bit safer. My husband and I moved to Valleyfields from New York by way of Cherry Point Marine Corps Base. And the first time we saw the neighborhood, we just loved it. We loved our community. We loved the way it looked. Very different from New York. It's landscaping. We have beautiful trees that's behind most of the houses. We bought it because we were comfortable here. We love the way it looks. And I'd like to keep the aesthetic as much as possible in my community. I believe this new community budding through our entrance or our roads will change that. And I worry about that. I worry about the neighbors that we're going to lose. We've already lost 2 great neighbors within the last 30 days, I believe, because of changes in the community. I don't want to see more of the neighbors that I've learned to love and get to know leave because of their fear for the changes, their fear for the trucks that is going to be driving through our roads, creating congestion, and just making an unsafe environment. We are one of the few communities that is fully developed, and that's a selling point for a lot of people who want to come into our homes. You know, I love that we have 171 homes and everything is constructed ready. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Marcia Moore. I live at 2400 Chartwell Lane. I've been at Chartwell since 2005, almost 15 years. And we knew anything about this zoning process. The sign, we went to bed one night and the sign was there the next morning. No one talked to anyone on Chartwell about what was going on. We've heard something in the past about eventually they will open up Chartwell, but never really thought it was going to go through. Some issues I do have, I know it's not a place to talk about the school system, but even coming into Pepperstone and all the way down to Chartwell, there are several bus stops. So if you have all these big vehicles coming down Chartwell and Pepperstone, I live on the corner, and the corner is a bus stop. What's going to happen to all these kids that's waiting out here for the bus stops? And you have the log trucks and all this coming through. I see that's going to be an issue. And like Mr. Bird said, with the traffic coming in and out of Chartwell, our kids play, my son plays basketball in the cul-de-sac. He's been doing that for years. There's no more of that now. I refuse to let him go up and play in the street when we have an open right away to a whole nother neighborhood. I do agree with them when they say it should be barriers. It should be something that distinguishes Valleyfield from the other development, and just going into another development, it's not going to look right. It's not fair to Valleyfield, and it's not fair to the new development. The houses are nice, but like someone said earlier, they have their own covenants and we have ours. Another thing I have a question about is the time phrase for each phase. How long is this whole process gonna take? You know, the first phase, how long is that gonna take to be built? So those are just some questions that that I have. And when the developers thought about putting a development back there, did they think of the overcrowding in the schools? And the bus stops right now, the bus that comes through, we used to have double loads. There is no way in the world all these kids are going to fit on this one bus. But that's just a question I have. I know I'm not going to talk about schools, but and I think that's about it. I think this was poor planning on the part of the builders, and no one contacted anyone on Chartwell about it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Hello, members of the board. My name is Jim Trenner. I live at 2622 Pepperstone Drive. I'm a little bit further back in Valleyfield, but I'm the president of the HOA, and I can guarantee you that we were never contacted by the developer about any of these developments, Neither was our property management company, Slider Services. I spoke to our property manager yesterday. This is the first she's hearing of it. So I'd like to know from the developer specifically when, where, and how this meeting was held, who they actually contacted, who was in attendance, because it sounds like some of our neighbors from Stonehaven were completely shocked by this too. Like to get some information from them on that later on in the evening. I'm not going to reiterate all the concerns everyone else from my neighborhood has expressed. The one thing I'd like to bring up in my time is that logistically speaking, safety issues already been addressed, but aside, it's going to be nearly impossible to get any kind of construction vehicle into the neighborhood through Chartwell. The roads are too narrow. There's literally no way to get a truck with a crane or an earth mover on it around that corner. You'll be all up in people's neighborhoods. You'll be knocking down street signs, knocking down mailboxes. It's just logistically not possible. I don't see anything in the plans that I've seen that provides for an alternative construction entrance, which I think is a main sticking point of this thing, is that there needs to be a way to get that equipment in and get the work done, if it's going to be done, without disrupting the lives of the two neighborhoods that surround it. I'd also like to echo the sentiments of the young gentleman right here about the density. I don't think that R9 is going to be appropriate. We've got 171 homes on about 90 acres, and you're talking about almost that same number on almost half the acreage. It's just not conducive to the neighborhoods and development that we've got. And this is what we need. We need something, if there's going to be a development there, I understand it needs to be in keeping with the surrounding neighborhoods. And again, I like the idea of a buffer zone between the neighborhoods, not to like, I don't like the use of the word barrier. I don't want them to think of like we're not neighbors, because we will be. But they need to have their own identity, and there need to be some clear distinctions between the areas. I think a 50-foot buffer zone is completely appropriate. Excuse me. It'll provide for protection for our common areas. We've got a pond, we've got walking trails, we've got a park, we've got all kinds of things in our neighborhood that we pay to maintain, and we don't want, to have other people using it without the benefit of having paid for it themselves. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Selena Foster, and I live at 2422 Pepperstone Drive. I'm there now 3 years, so I'm new to the community. But I wanted to say, I moved from New York down here to North Carolina, and I love where I live at. I love my community. I feel safe. I feel secure. And I'm in the beginning of the Pepperstone. So I'm going to get all that traffic coming in. If it comes into the front entrance, I'm going to be getting all that traffic. So I worry about all the traffic that's going to be coming in. And I worry because there is, you said don't mention the schools, but I'm right there at the bus stop. So, with the buses and all this here traffic, I worry about the children's safety, my community, children's safety. I worry about that. But most of all, I worry about the elderly in the neighborhood. There's a lot of elderly. So with all that traffic going in and out, I worry about our safety because I moved there for the safety. My daughter lives at the end of the cul-de-sac. And, I just worry. I truly worry. I see all the signs out there, watch out for our children. What's going to happen to all of that, What's going to happen to the children with all this traffic and everything? So I truly worry about that. And I just hope that the developers make a different decision than coming into our community, destroying our community, because I love it so much and I feel so happy there. And I love my neighbors that I'm around. And I feel so blessed to be in Valleyfield and have a community and an HOA that I'm in. So I just wanted to voice my opinion on that. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here tonight with us, guys. I appreciate your time. My name is Tommy Arnold. I live at 2449 Greenview Drive there in Valleyfield. I just want to express a few of my sentiments too. I wanted to thank our members of the HOA and the other people that let me know about this event tonight. There was no communication from the builders or the developers of this other location. If you think that happened, then you were fooled. All right, so I just wanted to echo those sentiments. Also, coming off of Chartwell right there, just like Tony said before, that's a ridiculous idea, especially with the construction vehicles and everything like that. There's no way to make those turns. If you're coming into our neighborhood, most of the time, most of these families have more than 2 cars. There's always cars parked on the street. There's barely enough room most of the time to get 1 car through. These roads are much too narrow for that type of activity coming through there. And I just fear that something else could happen, just like all these other people have echoed their sentiments about that too. I moved in 2 years ago. I moved in because this was a nice neighborhood. I lived in Burlington. I moved to Graham for that reason, to move my family up, not to move it down. This neighborhood, it is nice, the houses are nice, but it doesn't fit in with the scenery or the other neighborhoods around it. I would implore that the developer, just like some of the other people, go back and rethink it, rethink about another entrance, and rethink about how they're laying that out, because it just doesn't match with the feel around there. Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, my name is Jane Promnitz, and I live at 2516 Pepperstone Drive in Valleyfield, and we have been there probably 14 or 15 years now. I'm not going to reiterate a lot of things that's already been said. The entrance in and out of Valleyfield is a major concern. We try and discourage people from parking on the side of the roads because it is a safety hazard, but it does happen. And there's been several times when, as you're coming around that curve that's there in Valleyfield, and I don't drive more than the speed limit, which is 25, but you have to slow down to be able to get around it. And if there's another car coming, you can't get around. 2 cars cannot fit through there. So I'm really concerned about the size of the trucks that would be coming through. Also, I had to Google what an R9 zone lot is, because I didn't know. And what I Googled, it said it's a 0.11 acre. And if you were putting a 2,000 square foot house on a 0.11 acre, they're basically on top of each other. There's really not, I don't think there's going to be any space, that much space between each house. And I've driven through subdivisions that are like that, where the houses are very, very close, and it looks very cluttered. It looks cheap. The house on this picture looks very, very nice, but they have space beside each one in the picture. If you have another house that's sitting 5 feet or 8 feet away from it, it detracts from the value, I think. And that's not in keeping with our subdivision, even though ours is nothing like Stonehaven's. But there is a difference. So I think that needs to be considered. The density of that housing development is a problem for our area. I mean, we've already got the subdivision that's going to be going in where the golf course is. Shamrock. We got the subdivision on Rogers Road that's going in. 3 on Rogers Road. The traffic on Lacy Holt is going to be impossible. And just trying to get out now without these homes there at the blinking light in the morning for rush hour is horrendous. So all of these things need to be considered when you're putting in a subdivision like this. And this high density, I don't think is right for our area. So that's all.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
As Mary said earlier, it is 0.2 acres for each lot.
Yes, sir.
But that can but that can change based on the depth of the lot.
No, ma'am. 9,000 square feet is the absolute minimum with an R9. You cannot deviate from that. You can have larger.
What's the minimum width? You said it was what, 60 feet, 90 feet? 60 feet minimum width. Yeah.
It is 60 feet.
So 60 feet minimum width for each lot. So that can change based on the angle or
No, ma'am. 9,000 square feet is the minimum.
Well, the overall acreage, yeah, but the distance between homes could be different because it might go deeper rather than wider. That's the point.
It can't go below 60 feet.
Yeah, but
width.
Yeah.
Point of order. Who wants to step up next, please?
I wasn't planning on speaking. My name is Pat Moorfield. I live at 2705 Pepperstone Drive. I only learned of this earlier today, so I haven't had that long to study it. But from listening to all my neighbors, I certainly agree with all their comments. From studying the map, and this is about planning, so it looks to me like this plot is kind of landlocked, if you will, between these two neighborhoods, between Valleyfield and Stonehaven, without a piece of the property touching Lacy Hope. Seems like to me it'd be better planning to wait until they could buy a piece of property that allows them to make an entrance directly onto Lacy Hope. And since it's be nested between this R18 neighborhood and an R12, it may be good planning would be an R15. So I agree with rezoning, but rezone it to R15.
Evening, my name is Keith Nice. I'm at 2432 Nightdale Drive, part of Valley Woodshire, I'm sorry. And we moved there 10 years ago, trying to find a little extra space. I have one of the smallest lots in the neighborhood. I have 1.9 acres, which is smaller than most of my neighbors. I have a muscadine orchard that's larger than many of these lots that they're putting in. Again, I would say too, it looks landlocked. Most subdivisions should have immediate access to a major road. You have to drive through either, one of the two subdivisions even to get to a road. I've driven down Valleyfield. It's packed in there. I mean, there's 2 or 3 or 4 cars on every house. There's sometimes 5, and there's one in the road. And you're talking about making houses tighter than you already have on Valley. I can't imagine how in the world that many cars can get through there. If there's 2 or 3 cars in each lot at 163 houses, you're looking at 300 cars driving through there. On our street, we might have 20 or 30 cars driving through. I invite every one of you, please come drive through Nightdale and Stonehaven at night. It is completely dark. There's not a street light out there. You have senior citizens walking along at night. You have children taking their pets for walks at night in the dark, no flashlights, which they shouldn't be doing. But I have a neighbor that pulled out in front of me with his riding mower. I was driving home and he just pulled right in front of me. And if I had been speeding, I would have hit that neighbor, but I didn't because, we all drive slow and we watch out for each other. I can't imagine 300 cars going through there. I'd love to take you to Durham to see where I grew up. I grew up on a quiet dead-end road. There were 12 houses on that road. We would walk and talk to the neighbors in the evening. They put a high-density unit at the end of my dad's property. There's probably 300 or 400 units there, and cars fly up and down that street at night. UPS comes in at 6 o'clock, and they're just barreling through trying to get their packages delivered. I worry every day for my dad because he goes out to get the mail. I have a friend of mine that I grew up with in high school, and his mother went out to get the mail and got hit by a car that was flying down the street too fast. So don't take it lightly when we talk about traffic. We moved out there because we wanted extra space. We wanted to be in a quiet, protected area where we could raise our family safely. And I don't see how in the world they could put a subdivision that doesn't have any access to a major road. Thank you.
Please be quiet. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
My name is Richard Hughes, 931 Stonehaven Drive in Graham. Basically, I just want to reiterate what everybody else has said. From a technical standpoint, I remember 8 or 9 years ago that the state came in and paved our subdivision, Woodshire, and they stopped right at Richard Terrell's house, where that's the access to the new development. And they did not pave that access. And I stopped and asked one of the supervisors after they'd finished the work in our subdivision. I said, "Why didn't you guys go ahead and pave right up to the gate, go right up by Richard Terrell's?" And he said, "We didn't because the state does not own that road. That land is owned by Richard." And I know, talking to Richard, that he's not going to sell it. So the point I'm making is there may not even be an access to Stonehaven. And that would put it all on Valleyfield. Valleyfield is a city subdivision. This new proposal is a city subdivision. Please don't come through a county subdivision with all this traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Rita Cole, and I reside at 944 Stonehaven Drive. My home will be right at the corner where you will turn to go into this new subdivision. If you were in my neighborhood today, you would see rolling hills, you would see curves, you might see people walking their dogs, their children, and it does go on all in the evenings. We have people coming into the neighborhood from other areas because it's a pleasant, quiet place to walk. We have no sidewalks. We have narrow streets. We experienced quite major flooding in that area just last weekend. If you were in our area, you would have seen all the water comes down from Stonehaven. And if this comes down from Whispering Hill and goes down to the creek, you're really looking at some possible flooding issues that need to really be considered for infrastructure. In addition, someone else mentioned the wildlife, and I know that people don't really maybe care, but one of the reasons that people choose our areas to live is for the trees, for the quiet, for the wildlife. We know the houses who have dogs and have children and who have cats. And we know where the deer usually are. Other people won't know that. And that curve, the curves between the hills and the curves and that turn right before you're going to go into Stonehaven, it's going to be very, very difficult. We've had utility trucks out there recently with cable, and they are having, it's really, you have to be very careful. You can barely get around them. And the people that are living in both of these neighborhoods love their neighborhoods. They love their community, and we understand there's progress needed to be done, but we also want to protect the integrity of the life that we chose. If this developer and builder really, really cared about what their impact was, they would follow the guidelines of the last builder. We're finishing up the last, about a year or two ago, we were in front of you about Lacy Ridge, and our community wanted to keep our community similar with larger lots and keep the integrity of the neighborhood and the kind of houses. And that builder did that. He worked with us, the developer worked with us. We agreed for more dense housing along the frontage of Lacy Holt and less density down Nightdale Drive. And this is what we would like to see, not coming through our neighborhoods, either of these neighborhoods, for the safety reasons, for the impact on the environment, for quality of life. You know, if they want to build, talk to us, get a direct road in, and follow the example of other builders that have worked with the people to do that.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank y'all for being here tonight. My name is Tommy Brown. I live at 2408 Whispering Hill Drive. Very concerned about this, just like everybody else that spoke up here tonight. I am one of the ones that do walk my dog. I enjoy walking my dog every night. If this were to happen, I think I would not want to do this at night. I know that a lot of people have said a lot of different things, and I agree with those things. Still want progress. I don't know if we need to, if they want to look at changing this to a different R. I don't know if you can do that. I don't know what needs to be done, but I do know that either to look at totally different plan or, like you said, a different access. It's just, I don't see how a subdivision has to use 2 other subdivisions to get in and out of. To me, that doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak before we close the public hearing?
My name is Mike Sutton, live at 2446 Whispering Hill Drive. Like all my neighbors and the folks over in the other subdivision, I just had a couple of questions about if this does go through, like our neighbors have said, the width of our streets aren't exactly that wide. Are these developers willing to put any sidewalks in or help us out with maybe speed bumps for the traffic control? Not going to go into everything everybody else said, but I'm just kind of wondering who's going to answer all these questions, because best I could tell, the developer, they hadn't been in here most of the meeting. So just kind of wondering how that's going to go.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak before we bring the developers back up? Yes, sir. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Phyllis Holt, and I am one of the owners. I own the parcel next to Woodshire.
Ma'am, would you mind providing your address?
Excuse me?
What is your address, please?
It's 3928 Yount Court. I don't live in that development. 3928 Yount, Y-O-U-N-T.
Yes, ma'am.
That's in Burlington.
Burlington.
Yeah. Anyway, I grew up on Lacy Holt Road. My parents moved there when I was 1. And I've heard of a lot of people talking about they don't want to change, and I understand that totally. When I moved there, when they moved there, it was a dirt road. Lacy Holt Road was a dirt road. And it stayed a dirt road until around 1970. And then I was related to almost everybody on that road. I mean, it was family owned mostly. And then change happened. Quail Hollow started around 1980. That's up the road from there. Let's see. Woodshire started in the 80s, I believe, if I remember. As a matter of fact, Woodshire was landlocked, and my dad actually sold them a piece of property so they could put a road in. Willowview is across the road. I believe it was started in the 1990s. And then Valleyfield started around 2005, something like that. And then there was another one down the road, started about 2005, same thing. So I've seen some change in that area, a lot of change. And at the other end, there's Shamrock Point Townhomes, started around 2005 also. And 2 other subdivisions up that way, started around the same time. So yeah, we used to I understand what they're saying. We used to ride bikes in the road. It was safe. Change happens. It's hard sometimes. A matter of fact, Valleyfield and this property used to be one piece of property. It was my grandparents' place. And my uncle inherited Valleyfield, the land that it was sitting on. And that's why Valleyfield exists. My uncle sold the land. And my grandparents owned all of this land. And now our piece is for sale too. So if you look at their plat, it's one big piece of property. That's what it was. It was a farm. So anyway, I understand change, and I understand the tendency to fight it. I do. I get it.
Hold on just a second. There was somebody else who was going to stand up that wanted to speak.
I would like to clarify one point. Tom Balchin, 2361 Nightdale Drive. The mention of the subdivision, Woodshire subdivision, and Standard Road. I got my street. Anyway, Woodshire subdivision is the subdivision, and the mention was made of Richard Terrell. And Richard owns a piece of property there at the entrance to for the proposed new subdivision. And no, the county would not pave the road up there. And no, the people that scraped the snow would not scrape that. They piled it up there, and then Richard had to get out and get himself out of there. So I haven't had a chance to look into that, but I'm going to look into that further to see if this is a way of stopping an entrance from coming into Stonehaven there. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Who is next, please, before I start over again? All right. Is there anyone over here who'd like to speak again? I seen one hand up. I have one before you, ma'am. Go ahead, please. Yes, yes, ma'am.
I know when I was up here before, Mr. Perry had asked me about the 2035 covenant and what all it covered. And then several people over here have mentioned the density of homes is also covered in that. I'm not really sure what Ms. Holt's point was, other than that her family owns buku land and they've been selling it off.
I apologize for interrupting you. Do you mind stating your name again?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Bonnie Whitaker, 2456 Greenview Drive.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I totally forgot. I figured you'd know me by now. I'm not sure what her point was. We're not opposed to change at all. I'm certainly not. But like several people had mentioned, you know, this plat is kind of trapped in between these two neighborhoods. And I don't really think the builders care, you know, about the surrounding neighborhoods. And I think, you know, the Holts are just making money. So that's about all I had to say. Thank you for letting me speak again.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Xiaoping Johnson, and I live on 986 Stonehaven Drive. And I just want to make a point. It is true, this piece of land is locked in. So there are two neighborhoods there, Woodshire and Valleyfield. All the current owners of Valleyfield and Woodshire, they all bought the house and came live in there for many years. Some lived over 30 years. And I have lived there for over 2 years now. And what I want to say is all those owners, they purchased their properties and lived there much earlier than the developer, than the future owners of this development. So I think the developer should all really consider the interest, the welfare of those two subdivision people, because they came first. So your land is locked in. If you still want to develop land, you really have to have a good solution. Whether it was buy a piece of land to get access, or to me, you guys are city planning department staff member. To me, this developer should conform with the neighborhood, with these two subdivisions, not putting like R9, or even, I think the development plan said multifamily units up to 12 and duplexes. Is that true?
Hold on. Yeah, stop that thing for, go ahead and answer the question.
So the future land use plan recommends as a principal use predominantly detached single-family homes. New neighborhoods may include a range of duplexes, townhomes, and small-scale multifamily dwellings of 12 units or less. However, that's not on the table tonight. The only application before the board tonight is
It's a single-family homes, I9?
The only application before the board tonight is R9, which includes a few other uses other than single-family homes. They include a church or other religious institution, the ability to be an architect in your home if you want to, a public park, and then those are the only other
But
uses.
not for this development?
This development, if approved tonight as applied, could not put in any multifamily, nor duplexes, nor townhomes.
Okay. I see. And is this already kind of proved? Because I just, as I said, I just noticed last night and I just saw this information tonight. So is this development plan approved? Oh,
It hasn't been
No.
approved yet. No, ma'am.
okay,
That's what we're here for tonight,
okay.
to decide yes or no.
So my point is the new development should conform with the two existing neighborhoods.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like, okay, yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Mary Taylor again, 974 Stonehaven Drive. I was reviewing some of the documents that was on the website, and I thank you, Mr. Page, for enlightening me today when he called me. We were talking, and he was telling me that the DOT did an estimate of the amount of homes and how amount of potential cars that could be on this road. And he said potentially it could be 800 cars a day on our roads. 800, this is per what he said. Plus also, I questioned the development, and I know we have to have city taxes and all that. And there was, but I didn't feel like we needed to raise those taxes on our backs. And he had said that the city actually loses money on the subdivisions being built. I'm thinking, well, that's just poor business model then, if that's the case. Then going through on page 3, there was a section that talks about protecting the existing floodplain, that they feel that this community is going to protect the existing floodplain, which will help reduce the downstream flood events and protect the habitat. So the high density is supposed to remove households from the potential harm of floodplains. Now, when I did some brief research on the November 29, 2016 U.S. Geological Survey, it plainly states roads and buildings constructed in flood-prone areas are exposed to increased flood hazards, including inundation and erosion as new development continues. This completely contradicts what you have in your plan. And I just am very concerned. Being talked about the sidewalks, where little water reduces the infiltration into the ground and accelerates runoff into ditches and streams. And again, we've got a big creek behind us. It's huge, but guess what? It floods with a little bit of rain. And you add on a whole nother neighborhood with this high density, what's it gonna do to our property? That is my concern, and I want you guys to address it.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I have Sandra LaFrancois, 973 Stonehaven Drive. I have 2 questions. One might be more applicable to Mr. Page to answer. Does Graham ever indulge in the practice of eminent domain?
Do you want me to answer that one?
Did you say no?
I asked the chairman if he would like me to answer that one. I've worked for the city for more than 5 years, and there has never been a case that I'm aware of where the city has utilized eminent domain.
But you have the authority?
The city council has that authority, ma'am.
So it does exist.
Yes,
I just want to make clear that up. So a worst case scenario that could be used to on Mr. Terrell's piece of land to cut that road into Stonehaven Drive if necessary. Is that correct?
That would be something for the legal team to.
But it's possible. It's a possibility.
Ma'am, I'm just telling you that would be something for the city.
Okay, I got my answer. I know you said don't bring schools into it. And I understand there's a whole nother department for that. But this is the first step in this process. And I think more than just acreage should be considered. I read articles all the time where the schools are in trouble. They don't have money for this. They don't have money for that.
Please stop. We as the city of Graham do not have jurisdiction over the schools. That is a county issue. If you want to talk about schools, you got to go talk to the county about it.
Well, I know, but this is the first stop, which should be considered.
Ma'am, I will read you out of order. Is there anyone else who want to speak? Okay.
I have a couple questions. Lauren Alinsky, 2447 Pepperstone. Should the entrance off of Valleyfield go forward, the debris and road trash, dirt, rocks, everything that will come from the trucks, who is responsible for maintaining that and cleaning that up in our neighborhood?
I can answer that one. That would be the developer.
Okay. Now the developer contracts out for their dump trucks, and most people know that dump truck drivers and companies, they say if property damage occurs, it's not our fault, don't follow too closely, if your windshield gets cracked, whatever. So when I lived in Winston, we were actually part of a development that they cut a secondary development into, and so we had like a weird division, and there was like, you took a corner very much like this, and there was a sign, and a new development started. Like another gentleman that had spoken earlier, it was a lesser quality home, much smaller lots, and we actually had a lot of problems when they were developing that neighborhood with damage to the vehicles, actually from the trucks and from the dump trucks, from rocks. We had multiple scratch vehicles, scrapes, broken windshields, and then the debris. And that's why I bring up the point of, who would actually, is this going to be a weekly cleanup? Is this going to be monthly? Is it just when we complain? What would the maintenance of that roadway be, especially in that neighborhood area?
Nathan, can you answer that?
Yes, sir. So the Public Works Director, Burke Robertson, is ultimately responsible for all of the streets within the city of Graham. And that would be all of those that are in Valleyfield. And I know for a fact that he has on more than one occasion watched a developer go out with a broom and sweep off a street that had a little bit of mud on it, because he recognizes that a road with mud on it ends up looking like an ice skating rink. And so he has required them, whenever it's reported, to clean that mud up. As for NCDOT, those are under the purview, as for Stonehaven, Whispering Hill, and Nightdale, those are under the purview of NCDOT, and they have the authority to immediately issue a stop work order on anything that is not cleaned up. And although NCDOT is generally difficult to communicate with, their office is right behind the DMV. And so they peruse the streets in Graham where development is happening on a regular basis. And I have seen them use the authority to stop work on a site because there has been an excess of mud or other debris on the street. So in this jurisdiction, I believe that the streets are well looked after in these circumstances.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I am Sally Hessnice at 985 Stonehaven Drive in the Woodshire Estates. Yes, and what I'd like to propose tonight is that we turn this area of 57 acres, which 57 acres is not a lot of land, into a park area that can only be accessed by trails, which the communities of Valleyfield and the communities of Woodshire Estates can both enjoy for our children and our grandchildren. And in this park area, we can have a community garden, we can have a play area, and we can have trails that both communities can already enjoy. Since both communities are already densely populated, I would suggest that there's not enough space for more population at this time. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
My name is Robert Toney, 2517 Covington Valley Fields. I've listened to everyone tonight, and all I can come up with is that the proposal plan, the problem that the developer has is making it Valley Fields and the other stone problem, which making it our problem. It's his problem. He has got to develop a way in and a way out without affecting the two neighborhoods. That's his problem. What he wants to put on it, put what you want. That's going to be brought to you. But to make their problem our problem is not right. And if you, as a board, took a ride out there and drove down to Chartwell, you would see the problem at first hand. Now, the curve they're talking about, a few years ago, there was a head-on collision. And we went to the town. I was on the board at the time. We went to the town, and they put a no parking signs on that curve on one side because it was dangerous. And we didn't want anybody to get hurt, especially the children. And right now, we have a bus that comes down there. He stops, backs into Chartwell, turns around, goes up, picks up a handicapped child. So put yourself in all these people's position. Take a ride out there, look, listen, and see. If you live there, would you want it? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to step forward and speak before we close the public hearing?
I would like to ask Nathan to address one question, if I may, please.
Step back up here and state your name, sir.
All right. Tom Balchin, 2361 Nightdale Drive, Graham, Woodshire subdivision.
What's the question, sir?
I would like to ask him to address the car flow, the traffic flow of 163 homes and 2 cars per home, and what the flow is going to be during the early morning, late afternoon hours, if he could, please, sir.
You want to give it a shot? I would tell him.
So NCDOT uses an average of 4 trips a day for a single family residence. So if you have 165, we'll make it easy numbers to do math with, 150 would be 600 trips per day. The 600 trips per day taken with the existing, say, 50 homes in Woodshire subdivision would give you the 800 trips per day that could potentially come out on Nightdale. 10% of those are generally used as peak hour. So during the AM peak, you could see 80 vehicles per day that would drive along Nightdale Road. That's assuming that all of these vehicles exit out this way and none of them go out through Pepperstone Drive. Pepperstone Drive or Valleyfield has approximately the same number of homes, would have approximately the same number of trips per day. So you could see potentially a doubling of the vehicles that would travel on Pepperstone Drive between Chartwell and Lacy Holt. NCDOT as a standard, uses 1,000 vehicle trips per day as what they consider an appropriate amount for a residential street. They do say that a road with just one lane in each direction can, under some circumstances, carry up to 10,000 vehicles per day. I do not think that that is an appropriate number for any subdivision, nor do I think it's an appropriate number for Rogers Road.
Please keep your comments to yourself and let Nathan answer the question, please.
Yes, sir.
All right, go for it.
Nor do I think that's an appropriate number for Rogers Road, Lacy Holt, Monroe Holt, although NCDOT may believe they can handle that. What I believe you run into under those circumstances is difficulties at the intersections, particularly the intersection of Rogers and Lacy Holt continues to have additional traffic concerns that NCDOT is investigating as a part of the TRC for this subdivision.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
May I ask a clarification for the traffic? Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Step forward, please.
Lauren Alinsky, 2447 Pepperstone. Quick clarification. So do those numbers currently include the new Rogers Springs subdivision that is next to Lacy Holt, as well as the Forks of Alamance subdivision that's almost to be completed? Because a lot of those people come up to Lacy Holt and cut over as well. Does that include them?
I'm not sure which numbers you're asking about. No one is anticipated to drive from Rogers Springs or Forks of the Alamance down Nightdale nor Pepperstone.
I'm not talking about Pepperstone. I'm talking about onto Lacy Holt, the traffic that's coming onto Lacy Holt that then impacts Monroe Holt and then out to 49. But Rogers Springs is right next to Lacy Holt Drive. And that's going to be, what, 176 houses roughly, I think it was. And that's, there's two ways. You can go down Rogers or you can cut over to Lacy Holt Drive or Lacy Holt Road. How is that the NCDOT? Did they take that subdivision into accountability as well with these numbers that they're proposing for the traffic affecting our flow? Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they're part of the up to 10,000 number you stated?
Lacy Holt has somewhere in the high 3,000 right now. Rogers Road has somewhere around 4,000. And the city has been working hard to get a light installed at the intersection of Monroe Holt and Lacy Holt and Rogers, and something done to the alignment at Monroe Holt and Lacy, because the way those roads meet make it less than desirable in terms of the way that intersection flows. But those are being looked at, and if the developer if NCDOT believes the developer will have a large impact on those intersections, NCDOT will require them to improve those intersections.
Okay, that was my question, because I think it's only fair to ask that, because that is another large development, roughly the same size, that would be impacting the same area. So thank you.
All right, before you speak, let us close the public hearing. Before the developer speaks again, is there anyone else? Okay, yes, ma'am. Step forward and y'all be patient with us, please.
Absolutely.
I got one more customer wants to speak before you.
We have one on EMS that's trying to get here. They keep getting calls though.
Hello, my name is Nicole Richardson. I live at 2709 Pepperstone Drive. So I lived in Valleyfield for, I think, about 5 years, going on 6. And I remember being told that when we first moved in, I think our builders had some kind of stalls in between phase 1 and phase 2. So my concern is, if these builders do start phase 1, and then the plan is to create their own entrance, their own sign at phase 2, and something happens during phase 1 where phase 2 doesn't actually happen, or there are a few stalls, how long are we going to be stuck with an undeveloped community going through our neighborhoods in our streets. Is there a plan?
Yes, ma'am. Hold on, I can get an answer for that question. Isn't anything that's going to be built now, once we pass the ordinance back a while, anything would have to be bonded, right?
They would have to have enough of the infrastructure in place that it would be able to safely serve alone. And the fire inspector's threshold is 30 single-family homes. And so there would have to be a connection through to Stonehaven Drive that would also connect to Chartwell as a part of whatever the first piece was.
All right.
Okay, so you're saying that they would have to have 2 entrances to to Stonewell, as well as Valleyfield in phase 1, is that correct? Or they would have to connect?
So there are some nuances to that. They could potentially put up a bond if it was their intention to subsequently come back and finish it out, but the city would be holding on to a check that we could go and write to a grading company to install the infrastructure that was deemed to be necessary for life safety.
Okay, no, I understand that, but I'm referring to having their own entrance, their own exit, things that distinguish them as their own as well. As of right now, I believe it says they don't have a sign planned. There's no space for them to have a sign saying this is their community versus the other 2 communities that separates them, but that's a part of phase 2.
There's no legal requirement that a subdivision have a sign.
Okay, well, so things like, I guess I want to reiterate too, that I would like there to be something that distinguishes them from the other communities in the neighborhood. We have unique features, each of the communities on this side as well as in Valleyfield. I would just like some type of assurance that if this project is built, when it's built, that they're going to ensure that we don't lose our identities in our neighborhoods. Again, with other people, I'm with Progress. I love Graham. I want to see it grow. I love what they're doing down in the square. And I'm for them building it, but I just want to make sure they don't take away the identities of the other neighborhoods, as well as that it actually blends. Someone mentioned the idea of changing it to R15 instead of a R9. I think that would be a good option because we have people with lots and lots of acres. I live on a quarter of an acre on my home myself. R9 is pretty small, considering. Let's at least make it look like it fits with our communities so that it stays the areas that we loved, that we purchased, and a place that we want to continue to raise our children and families. Thank you.
Let me state for the record, there is no R15 in the city of Graham.
Okay.
It's either R9, R12, or R18, R7. All right. One last time, ma'am.
And with my proposal that I had offered earlier, I just wanted to add that it would be nice if we could purchase this land from the developer, if the developer would please consider that the communities of Valleyfield and Woodshire would purchase this between the 1,000 individuals that were there to turn this into a community park with no road access and only trails. Thank you.
Ma'am, would you mind stating your name again?
Yes, surely. First name Sally, last name Hessenice, 985 Stonehaven Drive in the Woodshire Estates.
Okay, ma'am, let me take care of some. Is there anyone, last chance, last word before I close public hearing? Being no one is stepping forward, we close the public hearing at this time. Yes, ma'am. Step forward and we'll give you the last say.
Penny Sekadlo, Penny Engineering Design, 9220 Fairbanks Drive. I know that this is a difficult position that y'all have to be in when zonings come in. I know that it's extremely difficult when you're at the edge of a city and you have county lots adjacent to the piece of property that's being rezoned. But I also know that I have spent years designing subdivisions. I have heard several of these comments before, and I want these people to know that I do understand that they love their community, they love their lots, they have children, they have pets, and that is all we're trying to create, is a community where people can have children, love their pets, and have access to a nice home. This property is not landlocked. It has 2 public roads stubbed to it via the good planning of the planning staff of Graham. There is existing right-of-way to both properties from both of these roads. I have that in a record map. And so we are not needing access to a road. We have access to 2 roads. And as a professional engineer, I am sworn to uphold public safety and welfare. And part of the things that we do in designing roadways is to attempt to get interconnectivity so that there is more than one way out. So that if one area gets bottlenecked, they can go another way. If there's an accident at one entrance, emergency vehicles can get in another way. There are lots of houses, each of them have admitted having one access. This will provide interconnectivity not only to this development, but to the 2 existing developments. And I think that that is good planning. The lots, I flipped over the board to show you that our lots are extremely similar to the lots to the east. That is part of the juggling that I did with the developer of trying to find a method that to put in utilities and streets so that the city of Graham can grow. Some municipalities even want a more dense layout than what we did. But we tried to match the existing development. And we laid it out with contours in mind. They does follow the contours of the land. We have, without requirement, dedicated almost 1/4 of the property as open space. It will have a homeowners association. I heard some comment that they might want to join up together. That would be for the 2 homeowners associations to discuss. No, I'm sorry,
Please.
I heard some.
Wait a minute. Please be quiet. Give these people the opportunity to speak. That's just common courtesy. All right.
This development can stand on its own. It has lots of desire to protect the flood areas. It has lots of desire to protect the natural habitat. We are trying to be good stewards. We are trying to help Graham grow. And we have done many, many developments where I have then heard the same group of people who complained about their neighbors who weren't built yet come back and say how well they love their neighborhood. And that's what we're trying to create here. I do believe it is a very cohesive, well thought out, well built plan. Go ahead, Carla.
Thank you for everyone's comments. I did want to just let our families and friends of the Valleyfield Homeowners Association know that our attorney did send a letter to the following address. It was on the tax record at 2226 Swing Road in Greensboro. That is the address on the tax records. My apologies if the HOA did not inform the rest of the community, but it was our intention to make fully aware that they were invited to the meeting that we hosted on April 11th. We did have, like I said, 9 attendees at the meeting. Some were from Valleyfield that did get the letter. We did send it to the buffered neighborhood around us. I don't have the full list in front of me, but one of the addresses was to the HOA Association per the tax records in Alamance County from my attorney. In any case,
All right.
I just wanted to address the communication issue. We did send a letter to that tax mailing address. Furthermore, in terms of the look and feel of our neighborhood, I would invite all of the owners of the community in Valleyfield and our neighboring communities, neighbors off of Stonehaven, to visit my development in Ashbury. I'm really proud of that community. We've got many wonderful homeowners that live in the community. They're proud to live there. We build a quality home for families. I know our concern is for our children. As a mom of 4 kids, and this newest one here, I would never build anything that my children would not be proud to live in, and that my children would not feel safe to run in the yard or to play nearby. It is my intention to make sure our neighbors at Valley Field and our neighbors off of Stonehaven know that we are doing everything in our power to make sure the traffic is as calm as possible and to build homes that they would be proud to be neighbors in. Again, I would invite any of them afterwards, so speak with me directly, to come and tour my communities. I'm proud of them, my family is proud of them, and my children would be happy to live in any of them. If there are further questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But I do feel that this is a wonderful subdivision. I think it would add greatly to the city of Graham, and we would be proud to build it for you.
Okay, before you guys go, we'll start in. Nate, you got any questions?
Sure. So this is for you as the developer. There were a lot of complaints voiced about the increased construction traffic, all of that. Are there any plans to have a construction entrance that doesn't use that? I don't know where you would put it, but
That's a great question. And typically we do have one road as our construction entrance. We designate that when we determine the project's approval, if there were any further design issues with our engineering team, but we absolutely would consider doing that for our homeowners and the safety of our community.
okay. Another question I have is based on the crossed lines communication wise, your attempts to reach out and them not getting it, or 9 of them getting it, but based on the feedback you've had tonight, do you feel any common ground with these guys as far as buffers, or I'm sure building code addresses runoff and things of that nature? Mr. Page, is that correct? You weren't paying attention. That's
I'm
all
not
right.
able to speak on what things of that nature are, but runoff is certainly covered in the development ordinance.
Your codes do address the stormwater runoff. We have taken that into consideration. That's one of the engineering items that I have to handle. And the buffers are difficult when you are adjoining a neighborhood that is very similar to what you have.
I'm not trying to push this conversation either way. It sounds like I don't know if there's any common ground for you guys to meet on as far as what would.
The comments that we did have at the meeting that we hosted were primarily about traffic, and we did discuss the traffic calming median off of Chartwell, and that seemed to be met with good reception. And we did speak to the owners directly in that cul-de-sac about their specific concerns and how we could address that.
Let me address your question back. Wait a minute, sir. I'm sorry. The public hearing has been closed.
So that is ridiculous. She is not telling, I'm sorry. You and I had a conversation the other day.
Sir, you're out of order. Thank you.
Because I was at that meeting.
Sir, you're out of order. Okay, that's it. So, Mr. Mike, do you have any questions for her?
Yes. My concern is basically your subdivision planning for the rezoning to R9 between an R12 and an R18. Have you considered as an engineer possibly downsizing, upsizing, pardon my language, to an R12 or an R18?
I'll let our engineer address that.
Thank you.
That's something for the town of Graham to discuss with us. Generally speaking, to have utilities and city services, they want even more density than what we have shown. If the town of Graham wants less density, that is something we can consider, but it's generally not practiced when we get into a municipal situation.
Thank you. I'm glad you answered it in that regard, because a lot of clarification can be brought from an engineer to the people that have land on either side or adjoining. My only concern and last question would be to negate that question. I think it's already been covered. I apologize.
Mr. Dean? Ms. Penny, I have a couple questions for you. Do you know approximately how many acres of the 57 acres is going to be utilized for streets and sidewalks?
That I might have. Let me look at my little sheet here. I do not know that answer. I can probably get my calculator and do some quick math for you, and then be able to answer that question.
Okay, and have you had an opportunity to tell if this is going to be a gravity-fed sewer system or if it's going to be a pump station required?
Completely gravity fed. I've actually located the line on the property.
If you would, when you have a spare minute, would you figure that acreage for me, please?
Sure.
It'd be 2/10 of an acre per lot, 164 lots. So
That's
we've
what
got
I was going to do. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's 3.2 acres. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that y'all might consider putting in a road specifically for construction. I believe a number of the folks out there wanted to know where you wanted to put that, where you would if you were going to put it in. Where would it go? Going back to Nate's question.
Okay. Generally speaking, when I refer to construction entrance, it's a device we put in to hold down any debris leaving our site. And then that's usually just something that is part of the planning, part of the construction plans, which we would discuss with the town.
So it wouldn't be another exit. It would be Chartwell or Stonehaven as it is now.
At this point, I would say yes. But you know, construction traffic has traveled on almost every residential street in the city of Graham at one time or another. That's how houses are built. And so they're well aware of how to travel on those roads and maneuver. They do take their time, and they you know, manage to get in and out.
Sidewalks and curb and gutter are in the new
part of the plan.
Part of the plan.
Mhm.
Any discussion on a buffer zone at all?
About
A
buffers?
buffer zone, yes.
No, because we're giving up almost a fourth of the land already into, you know, what we think would be a very good natural area.
Is that natural area all in one location or is it interspersed throughout the development? Is it
No,
all
it's pretty much at the lower end of the property, down by the creek.
Okay, then that will have footpaths and access to it from the whole development.
It does have access in multiple locations. We have multiple access locations.
Is there a timeline for each phase for the development?
Generally speaking, we allow about 3 months for development of each phase, and the timing of that is left up to the sales pattern.
Mm-hmm. So the initial grading, the infrastructure, the curb and gutter, the paving, how long do you anticipate that to take before actual construction starts?
No, that was what I'm sorry. That's
Okay.
that's my purview is the road and the infrastructure. So I'm saying 3 to 4 months per phase.
Okay, so the stormwater runoff and the sewer lines and
Correct.
the utility lines and all that stuff would go in
Correct.
before actual construction
Yeah,
would start.
I do all the flat work, and then she does all the vertical.
Okay. As far as being a landlocked piece of land, you've already said it's not, because it's got 2 different entrances into it.
Right, and they are dedicated right-of-ways maintained by municipalities.
Okay. There was discussion about Richard Terrell's land that the state stops paving there. streets stop being clean?
The right of way is dedicated. We may have to add some asphalt, but the right of way is clearly there.
Okay. There was some discussion or some questions about selling the property to the landowners. It doesn't matter where it goes as long as it goes. I'm sure of that. But how would that be handled?
I'm sorry, I work on development.
Oh,
so
I know.
I don't know anything about parks, so.
But if
I'm the current buyer, so might have to ask the seller that question.
well, if the HOAs on the two different developments came up and
Made us an offer?
yes,
Okay, we could consider it. I mean, we would look at an offer. It just depends, but we are here to build communities. That's my job. I would be out of business if I didn't build and sell homes. And I would love to build a community that, again, that would be commensurate with the homes that we built at Ashbury, which is a gorgeous subdivision right down the street.
And in return, you're getting a fourth of the property free as it is.
I was just bringing that question up because it's
To
been
add
brought
to
up.
your
Yeah.
greenway and your parkland and that kind of stuff.
Do you plan to allow parking on the streets?
Pardon me?
Parking on the streets, or is there going to be enough driveway for everybody to have parking off the streets?
Each one of these have two-car garage. They have two-car pad in front for parking. We generally leave the parking in the street to the rules of the city, and I don't know that that is necessarily allowed or negated.
Okay, there was some mention of no parking signs being put up on a couple of streets that were busy at the curve. Is there any more plans for increased no parking zones in these areas if the parking is an issue for the school buses or for the residents to travel back and forth in?
Yes.
Let me rephrase that question. What are the plans?
There are processes in place for the neighbors to request traffic calming measures. I actually spoke with a gentleman today about potentially beginning the process to lower a speed limit on a road in our jurisdiction. We do that both for the roads within our ETJ, but we also have authority to set the speed limits on our city streets without having to go to other authorities to get that approved. The street width dictates the permitted uses for that street, and the development is still being reviewed by TRC. There are some streets that the city has that allow for no parking. There are some streets that the city has that allow for parking on one side, and there are some streets that allow for parking on both sides. So it'd be up to the developer to determine which road they wanted to put in, and then we would enforce our regulations based on that. If there were traffic issues, or one of the other ones that comes up very frequently is that individuals will park in front of the trash cans and then the trash truck cannot pick up the trash. The first piece for that is notice to the neighbors. If the behavior continues, then it is signed no parking regardless of how the street was designed. And the same would be the case for if there was safety issues that were perceived by the police and or fire department.
Okay, you mentioned the TRC, which is the Technical Review Committee. When they get a plan like this, do they look at street size, street width, all the necessary issues that the police and the fire department and the city maintenance crews would be looking at?
Yes, it will likely take Penny longer to get through TRC than it will to actually construct the subdivision because of all the things that are checked as a part of that, from Duke Power to the United States Postal Service and where the central box units, the new mailboxes are placed, and how those are accessed by all the residents of the neighborhood. That group is about 20 people that come in and critique the plans so that we minimize whatever changes need to be made in the field as they're noticed.
Is NCDOT part of that review also?
Absolutely.
Okay, so they're aware of the traffic that's going to flow into Chartwell and into Stonehaven. So they're aware of what's going to go on there as if this goes through.
Absolutely, and they have begun to look at what improvements may be required as a result of the subdivision.
Great. And I need to correct Mr. Ward's answer. When I did the math in my head, I did it wrong. I was calculating lot area, and I need to subtract that from the total minus the recreation area. There's approximately 10 acres of streets.
Okay, that's all I have right now.
The only question I just wanted clarification on was to make sure I understood that all other avenues have been explored for this subdivision to come in any other way. Is this the only way in? The two ways you want to come in?
That is correct. This is what the other designs have stubbed to us. And that is a common practice whenever you do subdivisions, that you stub to the adjoining property. I think it was good planning that they gave us 2 access points because this property can definitely connect all of those streets in that area to make that happen. And we also will be interconnecting and giving you some good flow for water lines. And then of course the sewer line extension will take care of this entire tract. So there's lots of infrastructure going to take place to better the city of Graham and the community. So we would ask for your approval.
All right. You guys got any more questions? No. Ian, you got any? Fine. All right. Thank you. So what is the discussion between the board members?
Mr. Benesh, I'm sorry, would you mind speaking into the microphone?
Oh, I was just mumbling, I'm sorry. Sorry. My concern, which is basically a personal one, not a zoning deal, and that is the disruption of 2 neighborhoods. However, the builder puts together good points as to what the developer said. So there's a lot of balance there. I just hate to see disruption within the city of Graham with the citizens of Graham.
This was an inevitable event. I guess the MP lot at Chartwell was the cul-de-sac was never a true cul-de-sac because it was designed for a through street at some time in the future. I just wonder what happens to the dissect part of that street because it's a circle drive, I guess, at the end, and
It stays there.
it's just a wide place in the road as it goes through. Okay. So this event was inevitable sometime in the future. Okay, and in principle it was. And the designated construction area will be one of the 2 entrances.
That's for phase 1.
Yeah, for phase one.
Phase 1, it would be off of Chartwell.
Okay, phase 1 will be off Chartwell. And then is it possible that the construction entrance would switch then as the different phases went through, so they would drive through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 till they got all the way to the end?
That would be.
Is that normal procedure? Okay. Yeah, I'm like Mr. Benesh. I hate to see disruption. Everybody was for change and for growth, but preferably somewhere else. And I understand that, and I understand that things are going to change. We've seen drastic change in Graham already, and we'll continue to see change. as it becomes a more desirable place to live. And I hate to see people be upset for things that are inevitable, that are going to happen sooner or later, whether it's an R9 neighborhood or an R12 neighborhood or a big Greenway Park, which should be that's between. You'll have to talk fast to the seller to make that happen. So they did come up with a good offer that the first option will accept.
Right. Is there any more discussion?
I'll step up. I'm in the same boat as these other two guys. It's exciting to see communities flourish and be happy together and have community night and be able to do things and be a fabric in a community rather than just a bunch of folks living somewhere. I definitely get it. I've had friends recently in other municipalities deal with this very thing, having the end of their street that ends in a wooded lot next to their house turned into a new neighborhood that's smaller lot sizes than their current one. So I get it. I understand it. On the flip side, the Graham Comprehensive Plan was mentioned a couple of times tonight. There is another side to that coin, and that is that the city is pushing for higher density population by default because of the expense and the tax base. Mr. Page, correct me if I'm wrong, but do we have somewhere around a $200,000 shortfall on taxes collected versus services rendered?
It would depend on which services or what your boundary was. The numbers that Frankie ran indicated that you need a 60-foot wide lot that has a value of at least $250,000 that double loads on a street in order for it to pay for what it demands.
So it's safe to say that that's one of the major motivators and making homes accessible to folks then, as far as pushing for higher density.
The city is interested in seeing as close as possible or above that threshold so that the subsidy that exists now for single family homes from industrial and commercial properties could be brought closer to parity.
Understood. And this would also give multiple routes for EMS failover. I understand that we're forsaking one safety thing, which is seclusion and single point of entry, for another safety upgrade, which is going to be EMS as multiple access points and ways to navigate those neighborhood systems that were not present.
And particularly it comes in compliance with the fire code. There would still be a small portion of Pepperstone Court that would have a single access before you get down to Covington Loop, at which point it becomes redundant again.
Gotcha. That's all.
Just a question on the ETJ. Does the city cover trash pickup and police, or is that you have to call the sheriff?
So trash pickup, the city only picks up trash for individuals who are in the city limits.
Okay.
In terms of who responds to 911 calls, it really depends. There's a bunch of cross agreements between them. Obviously, the sheriff department is in downtown Graham, and they do occasionally respond to Graham calls and vice versa. There are a lot of interjurisdictional agreements between those entities.
Okay. No.
Discussion before we ask for a motion.
In listening to them, going through my notes, there was a great deal of concern about the R9 density. And I think it's a very valid point for them. When you look at that to the left and up, you know, they're bigger lots, and I can understand their point and their concern. Personally, I'd rather see it do an R12.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last one.
Personally, I would rather see it an R12. I think they would feel a little better, you know, but
Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned about the density there also. The number of units, the small acreage that we're talking about, approximately 10 acres is going to be for streets and greenways. And so we're taking that 57 acres down to about 47 acres and then packing 165 houses in there, 163 houses in there. I'm just concerned about the density, and it's going to be way overboard.
Finish discussing and I'm gonna look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the R9 rezoning request.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Aye.
If I may explain my aye, or my nay, the whole purpose of the density is to better utilize the services provided by the city.
I'm in the same boat as well.
Right, duly noted.
And excuse me, Mr. Chairman, so what's the final tally?
4-2.
5-2.
I'm fine. I'm sorry, 5-2. Oh, it is recommended that even though you've been here tonight and we have allowed you to speak quite eloquently and lengthy, it is recommended that you come before City Council because they have the end game when it comes to approving or disapproving the subdivision. Recommend to deny. Recommend denying. And it's just a recommendation. It is not a final approval. City Council makes that approval.
This will be meeting on May 7th.
Yes. Here. Where are you sitting?
Same time. Can we be at least Valleyfield owners? Can we have our HOA representation next meeting?
That would be between you and the HOA and the developer itself. So whatever you guys work out.
Certainly, I ask one question.
Yes.
There's been no mention of the flood zone acreage in the discussion. And that was an interest of mine. What is the amount? We talked about the sidewalks and street acreage, but what about the flood zone acreage? Because that will be taken out of the acreage that can be built on.
That's a question you can bring to City Council, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You need to come to City Council, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's all done, said. It's all over with right now. Okay, we have one more thing. If you guys want to exit, please do it quietly because this meeting is still continuing.
I would like to say thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Ask your question while they're going. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
They will have they have the final say.
Please exit it, please.
Well, it has to be formally recommended to deny because it doesn't entertain.
Let Nathan finish up when we get out of here.
Yeah.
Chairman Hall, the next item before the commission, item B on your agenda, is a request to subdivide the 57 acres of the subject property for up to 165 single-family residential lots. The properties are primarily currently vacant. However, as we discussed earlier, they do not meet the standard for subdivision now. And so if denial was recommended for the rezoning, the planning board should also recommend denial for the subdivision.
I will make a motion that we deny item B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Go on to my item C, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Item C was pulled from the agenda by the applicant. There was some clarification that was provided that I wanted to bring before the board. The request was for all boards and commission within the city of Graham. However, as the application came through the planning board, through the planning department, the application was written for the only boards and commissions that exist within the development ordinance. That's why you guys saw it for the planning board and the HRC. The tree board, the appearance commission, the parks and rec commissions, those would all be handled by a subsequent amendment to the code of ordinances. However, that was pulled. The city council cannot hear it as a development ordinance amendment because they have to have you guys make a recommendation for any changes to the development ordinance before it goes before that.
Understand that.
There's no there.
There's basically, it's been removed from the agenda tonight. They pulled it, so we can't make a motion one way or another. At this time, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I don't understand why it was pulled. That's what I didn't pick up on.
The applicant pulled the.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, this is a point of clarification. I think this is what Nathan is saying. And because it has been pulled with respect to the boards under this body's jurisdiction, it is not eligible to be considered by the council at all.
They pulled it. Once it's pulled, it's pulled. Right?
State of North Carolina will not allow the city council to alter the development ordinance without first giving these guys 60 days to comment.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Yes. It wasn't the developer that sent the notice. We sent the notice. Yeah.